to the IUPAC Global Women's Breakfast, Empowering Diversity in Science. This event has been organized by the Department of Chemistry, Government General Degree College, Singur, West Bengal, India, in association with Rani Rashmoni Green University, West Bengal, India, and Association of Chemistry Teachers, care of Homi Bhabha Center for Science Education, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, Mumbai, in collaboration with International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, IUPAC. We shall get to learn many a thing from renowned scientists and academicians who comprise our speakers panel today. Such a program will definitely enrich students of undergraduate and postgraduate courses, research scholars, and even the faculty members across the country. Today we have with us Professor Shantanu Chakraborty Sir, Principal, Singur Government College, Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir of Rani Rashmoni Green University, Professor Ashutosh Ghosh. We have Professor D.V. Prabhu Sir, the General Secretary, ACT. So today we feel proud to have Dr. Bipul Bihari Shah Sir, the former Director, R&D NACL Industries Limited, Hyderabad, and most importantly, Sir is the IUPAC elected Bureau member. Welcome, Sir, to this international webinar. We feel extremely blessed today to have Mrs. Jenny Sharut, Madam, from Royal Australian Chemical Institute, Melbourne, Australia, amongst us. Madam is the recipient of the prestigious and most coveted Order of Australia Medal for her contribution towards academics. We welcome you, Madam, wholeheartedly in this virtual event. I am sure that the resource persons will enrich all of us by sharing their vast repertoire of knowledge. The IUPAC Global Women's Breakfast is celebrated today. Today is 16th February 2022. This global breakfast is an event that happens on a single day in February of each year in conjunction with the UN Day of Women and Girls in Science. The aim is to celebrate the accomplishments of women in science and to inspire younger generations to pursue careers in science. The theme for 2022 event is Empowering Diversity in Science. Women and men from all types of science organizations working in all areas of science have come together to share their breakfast, either virtually or in person. A central goal is also to establish an active network of both men and women to overcome the barriers to gender equality in science. The Global Breakfast facilitates the formation of communities on a local, regional, and international scale to effectively share the ideas and strategies for progress. The theme for the 2022 event is Empowering Diversity in Science. We know that Goal 5 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals is achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. As quoted in the recent Gender Gap in Science study and stated by UN is, gender equality is not only a fundamental human right, but it is basically a necessary foundation for a peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable world. We know that IUPAC is in a unique position to serve as a leading organization and global platform where these issues can be well addressed. Previous Global Women's Breakfast, as we all know, were organized by IUPAC in the year 2011, 2019, 2020, and 2021, and highlighted an ongoing need to build a network of both men and women working together to address the barriers and inequalities faced by women in science. This program has been conceived and conceptualized by Indian Association of Chemistry Teachers, care of Homi Bhabha Center for Science Education, TIFR, all the faculty members of the Department of Chemistry, Singur Government College, and the Department of Chemistry, Rani Rashmoni Green University. It is because of their relentless endeavor to make this program happen that we have been able to materialize it. Singur Government College is the youngest government college in the district of Hooghly, affiliated to the University of Burdwan, West Bengal, India. This college boasts of a dedicated and an erudite faculty who strive to create a milieu in the college that is conducive to learning for students and teachers alike. Numerous academic projects, scholarly discussions, enrichment programs, organizing social and cultural events constitute the annual activity calendar of the college. Each faculty member is actively attached to modern research, and many of them are engaged in projects with notable research organizations across the country. With a view to merge culture and academics, the college seeks to enlighten each student with knowledge beyond the ordinary. Students who have already been graduated from this institution hold their alma mater in high regard, not only because of what they have been able to learn here, but also because of what has made them into well-balanced individuals, spearheading the next generation towards the glorious tomorrow. Singur Government College will continue to engender such pioneers for the society in the West to come. The tireless efforts of our respected principal, Sir Professor Dr. Shantanu Chakraborty, ensure the smooth functioning of the entire college and involve all the students in inquiry-based learning so that they may be dissuaded from learning by rote. May I now invite Professor Shantanu Chakraborty, sir, to deliver the welcome address. Sir, please.
Amrit, am I audible?
Yes, sir, loud and clear.
Okay. Good morning. Government General Degree College, Singur, Hooghly, West Bengal, India, and Indian Association of Chemistry Teachers, care of Homi Bhabha Center for Science Education, TIFR, Mumbai, Indian Association with Rani Rashmoni Green University, Tarokeshwar, Hooghly, West Bengal, India, welcome you to Global Women's Breakfast in collaboration with IUPAC, International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry. The theme of this program is empowering diversity in science. Today, almost 300 global women breakfast events from 70 countries are taking place all over the world. We are highly honored to be part of this big event. Our speakers today are Dr. Bipul Bihari Saha and Mrs. Jenny Sherwood. Dr. Saha is the former director, LR Research Laboratories, NACL Industries Limited, and IUPAC elected bureau member. Mrs. Jenny Sherwood is from the Royal Australian Chemical Institute, Melbourne, Australia. Madam is also the recipient of the prestigious Order of Australia Medal from the Government of Australia. I would like to thank Professor Dr. D.V. Prabhu, General Secretary, ACT, Professor Brijesh Pare, President, ACT, and Professor Ashutosh Ghosh, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Rani Rashmoni Green University, for extending their support for such a wonderful academic endeavor. I would also like to thank Dr. Amrit Mitro and other colleagues of Department of Chemistry, Government General Degree College, Singur, for taking such an initiative to organize an event in collaboration with an organization international repute like IUPAC. There are numerous students presently participating in this webinar as audience who I firmly believe will be enriched by listening to our honorable speakers today, and also from the inputs given by several eminent personalities whom we have in our midst in this morning. I extend my best wishes to all of them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Rani Rashmoni Green University is a newly established university under the government of West Bengal in the district of Hooghly, West Bengal, India. The diligent efforts of Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir Professor Ashutosh Ghosh, faculty members, the support staff, and the administrative body endeavor to kindle in the learners the spirit of inquiry, thereby inspiring them to tread the path of research in the forthcoming years of their lives. May I now invite our respected Professor Ashutosh Ghosh sir to inaugurate this particular event. Sir, please.
Thank you, Amrit. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Rani Rashmoni Green University, I welcome you all to the Global Women's Breakfast, an initiative of International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, IUPAC. This program is arranged in association with Government General Degree College, Singur, West Bengal, and Indian Association of Chemistry Teachers, TIFR, Mumbai. This event is being organized today globally by several academic institutions. The theme of the 2022 event is Empowering Diversity in Science. Goal 5 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals is to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. IUPAC is in a unique position to serve as a leading organization and global platform where these issues can be addressed. Today, we have with us Dr. Bipul Bihari Saha, former director, ALR Research Laboratories, and IUPAC elected bureau member, and Mrs. Jenny Sherwood, recipient of the prestigious Order of Australian Medal from the Government of Australia, from the Royal Society of Australian Chemical Institute, Melbourne. Rani Rashmoni Green University is a new university, as Amit told, and it is committed to provide value-based science education to the students from various socio-economic backgrounds across the state of West Bengal. The core objective of this virtual event is to provide a platform to the students, academicians, scientists for a fruitful scientific exchange with zero capital investment, and also to develop their scientific aptitude. I would like to thank Dr. D.V. Prabhu, General Secretary, ACT, Dr. Shantanu Chakraborty, Principal, Government General Degree College, Singur, and Dr. Amrit Krishna Mitra, Coordinator of this program, for their initiative and support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Association of Chemistry Teachers endeavors to reach out to every student with an aptitude for science and every teacher related to the world of chemistry and propagate the subject as a discipline and a topic of research. ACT is a large family of teachers coming from all over India dedicated to the service of chemistry education. Today, we are extremely happy to have Professor D.V. Prabhu sir, the General Secretary ACT, amongst us. He is the pillar of ACT and a great source of inspiration to all of us. Apart from being the most important administrative and academic support of ACT, Professor Prabhu sir is also a pioneer who is constantly exploring new pedagogies to make chemistry more interesting and appealing to students and teachers alike. May I now invite our very own respected Professor D.V. Prabhu sir to deliver the secretarial address. Sir, please.
Thank you, Professor Amrit Mitra, for your kind invitation. Very eminent Professor Bipul Saha and all the other dignitaries and participants. I welcome all of you to this Global Women's Breakfast organized by Professor Amrit Mitra and wish you a very fruitful session. The Association of Chemistry Teachers is the national registered organization of chemistry teachers in India and since 2000 has been working tirelessly for the promotion of chemistry education and research. It has several activities like conferences at the national and international levels, training workshops, competitions, the International Chemistry Olympiad, a newsletter, so on and so forth. Global Women's Breakfast is another important activity in which the association takes part. Last year, we had a record number of entries from India, about 61 entries, which was a world record. I would like to thank Professor Bipul Shah for his constant advice and help and support. This event is organized all over the world to celebrate the achievements of women in science and to motivate the younger generations to take up science as a career. This year, the theme is empowering diversity in science, and it will bring together science organizations and individuals who have been working in science for many years. Science education deserves top priority. As we all know, in most countries, science education for ladies is very poor. And even in our own country, many students or lady students find it difficult to attend school or college. So we have to see that more and more girl students attend the colleges and the schools and take part in science education. Global Women's Breakfast will create an active network of people and organizations who are devoted to science education. And for us chemists, Professor Asima Chatterjee is the inspiration for all our women scientists. An outstanding organic chemist, Professor Asima Chatterjee synthesized the many drugs, especially for epilepsy and for malaria, and motivated a whole generation of women scientists. Another scientist worth remembering is Dr. Janaki Ammal, who was a well-known botanist. She worked on plant breeding, cytogenetics, and phytogeography. And what is very noteworthy is Dr. Janaki Ammal was working for the Silent Valley project in Kerala. And when there was a threat to this valley, she raised her voice and convinced the then Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi, to stall the project. So women scientists are also socially conscious, and we have to take a note of that. In our own country, the role of the women in the Indian space programs, Chandrayaan and the Mars mission, is noteworthy. And it is encouraging to know that more and more science students in colleges are ladies, especially in the chemistry subject. A large number of ladies are enrolled at the BSc and the MSc levels. The Chemistry Association of India is actively connected with this program, and I would like to thank all the coordinators. I am told there are 300 such events all over the world, and in India also we are having a large number of events. I would like to thank Dr. Brijesh Pare and Professor Vijendra Singh, who is the coordinator of this year's Global Women's Breakfast. I am very happy to tell you that Association of Chemistry Teachers has a large number of women members who are engaged in organizing several activities. And I'm sure today also the breakfast is going on in several organizations thanks to our lady members. I wish the Global Women's Breakfast a grand success and thank Professor Amrit Mitra and all his colleagues for their efforts. Association of Chemistry Teachers is always for women scientists and students And therefore, it is my pleasure to congratulate Professor Amit Mitra for organizing this activity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Alongside a mentor like Professor Prabhu sir, the members of ACT are extremely fortunate to be under the guidance of Professor Brijesh Pare sir, the president of ACT. Words fall short to describe his magnificent administrative ability. His attitude towards creation of an ambient environment for the benefit of students, generating greater interest in the subject amongst learners, handling difficult situations with optimism and sheer dexterity is exemplary. However, due to some unfortunate circumstances, Professor Pare sir has just informed that he will not be able to join us today. So let us move on with the technical session 1. It is my immense pleasure to introduce Dr. Bipul Bihari Saha sir. Sir was the gold medalist during his MSc days. After completing his PhD in chemistry, he carried out his postdoctoral research with the Nobel laureate, legendary professor, Professor Derek Barton. Sir also did MBA and another PhD in management. Sir is the former director, R&D, LR Research Laboratories, Hyderabad. Sir is the IUPAC elected Bureau member since 2020. In the year 1979, Bharat Ratna Professor CNR Rao was elected to this position from India. And after that, Dr. Saha is the second Indian to be elected for this position. IUPAC Bureau, as we all know, is equivalent to Board of Directors. The members of the Bureau are elected during IUPAC General Assembly. The voters in this election are representatives from all different countries who are members of IUPAC. Currently, Dr. Saha sir is titular member of IUPAC Committee on Chemistry and Industry and National Representative of India in IUPAC Division of Chemistry and Environment. He was also a principal investigator and member of the steering committee of Government of India sponsored New Millennium Indian Technology Leadership Initiative project. Dr. Saha has earlier held the positions of President of Vinati Organics, Director of Gharda Chemicals, General Manager of Monsanto, R&D Manager of Pfizer, and Scientist at Bhabha Atomic Research Center. Sir has been the visiting professor in reputed universities and institutes, including University of Mumbai, SJM School of Management, IIT Mumbai, and many others. Dr. Saha is invited as chairman, international resource person, discussion leader, and speaker all over the world. He has been awarded Homi Bhabha Gold Medal by Bhabha Atomic Research Center. May I now invite our respected Dr. Bipul Bihari Saha sir to deliver his presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Amrit, for the kind and nice introduction. Honorable Professor Shantanu Chakraborty, Professor Ashutosh Ghosh, Dr. Damodar Prabhu, organizing committee members, ladies and gentlemen. I am indeed honored to be invited for this program of the Global Women's Breakfast. I have been associated with this program since last 3 years when IUPAC restarted the program in 2019. So today's program, I would focus on women's participation and how in India we are encouraging women through different programs to take up science careers. So I'll just share my screen. Is my screen visible to all of you?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So the topic of my presentation.
Sir, can you please make it in a slideshow mode?
Yeah, it is now in the slideshow, is it not?
No, sir.
Okay, just one second. In my laptop, it is showing a slideshow.
Okay, sir.
Just one second. Slideshow. Is it showing slideshow or
No, sir.
no? I don't know. Some issue is there.
Okay, sir. No problem. Please continue.
Shall I continue like this?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No
Okay. So today, it being the Global Women's Breakfast Program, my topic is not technical. It is on the best practices of encouraging women scientists in Indian organizations. So just I'll give you a brief history of the Global Women's Breakfast Program. So the first Global Women's Breakfast event was held in 2011. That was the International Year of Chemistry. It was also the year of the centenary of Madame Marie Curie's Nobel Prize in Chemistry. So the program was held to encourage women to participate in the International Year of Chemistry. And subsequently, this program was relaunched in 2019 by IUPAC. That is, the 2019 was the centenary of IUPAC. It's an 100-year-old organization. And it was also the International Year of Periodic Table. Now, 2019 Global Women's Breakfast was a grand success. And IUPAC decided to make it an annual event. And it was held in 2020 and 2021. Now, India is taking leading role in Global Women's Breakfast Program. Last year, globally, 324 events were held in 70 countries. And in India, there are 61 events, which is the largest by the single country. So I take this opportunity to thank Association of Chemistry Teachers and Indian Chemical Council, who strongly supported my initiative and made it a great success. This year, as of today morning, there have been 50 events in India, but Mexico is doing 59 programs. So I would request ACT to take more initiatives so that next year, in 14th February 2023, we have a larger number of programs. So now, before I come to the subject, let me brief you of a global project which was taken by various scientific unions, including IUPAC. The name of the program is A Global Approach to the Gender Gap in Mathematical, Computing and Natural Sciences, How to Measure It, How to Reduce It. This was a project with 2 years duration, and International Mathematical Union, IUPAC, then International Union of Pure and Applied Physics, International Union of Biological Sciences, International Astronomical Union, UNESCO, and many others were involved. This was really a big global project. So there are more than 100 participants from 60 countries from all continents. So as a part of this project, a global survey was undertaken, and 30,265 responses were received from 159 countries. Now, all these responses indicated that gender gap persists across all disciplines, whether it's mathematics, physics, chemistry, engineering, across all geographic regions, whether it's India or USA or Canada or Australia, and across all employment sectors. So this gender gap exists in all sections. So some of the recommendations which was given by this committee to reduce gender gap is that engage families and communities to promote science, technology, engineering, and mathematics career for girls. Increase the number of nominations of women in scientific committees and awards. So when you are nominating members for different scientific committees, let us give some preference to the women, and also for the awards also we should nominate women, which has not been so far the analysis of the statistical data shows, and give preference to women between two candidates at equal level who are competing for the same position. take into account maternity when evaluating women's CV. When you are evaluating a woman's CV, we go by the number of years, but in case of women, you have to keep in mind that almost 1 year or more than that, they are spending time for the maternity, and so that should be considered when you are comparing a man and a woman. Then in decision-making positions, please alternate between man and woman. It should not be that man occupies a permanent position in the decision-making and he continues for years together, and the woman does not get any chance. Organize workshops specifically for women where role models are invited as speakers to share their stories of success, and a program to enhance confidence, communication skill, and leadership quality for women. All these things should be done, which will result in reducing the gender gap in the workplace. So this was the committee. As I said, that from almost 60 countries, 100 participants are there. So from India also there are representatives, and all over the world people are there to who work for 2 years to make this project. Okay, now I will switch over to the best practices of encouraging women scientists in Indian organizations. So I'll take some few examples. We'll find that, okay, although gender gap exists over last, I would say that 2 or 3 decades, Indian organizations are trying to promote or encourage women scientists, and I'll share with you some concrete examples. So Pidilite Industries, I think most of you know for their product Fevicol, which is a very popular product in India. So they are one of the largest specialty chemicals manufacturing company with a turnover of more than 5,000 crores. It's quite a large company. So they fully paid maternity leave of 26 weeks is given. Then reimbursement of taxi fare in the last trimester are provided to female employees to enable them to commute from home to work and back. They have separate gymnasium and swimming pool facility for the female employees.
Sir, this is Amrit. Sorry
Hello?
to disturb you, sir. Sir, your slides are not moving.
Oh my God.
Oh, sir, should I share the screen?
I have sent you the slide. Okay, can you
Yes,
share the
yes.
screen? Please,
Yes.
please. There is some problem.
Okay, sir, no
please,
issues.
please. I'll stop sharing. Is it my sharing is stopped? Hello?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Can you share? I had sent you the.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
PPT.
Sure. Just a minute, sir.
And sorry for this technological.
No problem, sir. Just a minute, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, is it visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay,
Just move on. So let us come to that Pidilite Industries. Yes. Yeah, move on. Next. Yeah, so from here I start. I'm sorry, I apologize for that the technological issue. So in Pidilite Industries, karate and self-defense training for all interested female employees are provided. And they are nurturing female employees to take up higher responsibilities. In R&D, quality control and technical services, about 25% of employees are female. Can I move to the next slide, please? Yeah. So it is a policy of Pidilite Industries to mentor young, talented science and engineering female college students as part of their corporate social responsibility. So they encourage the female students from different colleges to come to Pidilite Industries and provide them that on-job training. This is a part of their CSR activities. Next one. And this is a Sri Valwant Parekh Science City, founded by Pidilite. There's a village in Gujarat, Kalsar village, which has a limited science education facilities for young girls. Pidilite Industries set up the laboratory and provided facilities to generate interest and develop analytical skills for the girl students. Next one. So this is the Pidilite Industries. Next one, please. So Indian Institute of Technology in Roorkee. So out of 395 faculty members, 49 women in IIT Roorkee, 15 women faculty members are either heading or are members of decision-making bodies. And 13 women professors are members of the Senate, the highest academic body of the system, and got the positions only on merit. Several women faculty members are internationally acknowledged in their fields. Their presence in itself is a motivating factor for younger girl students in that college. So this is from girl students in IIT Roorkee. Next one. So Tata Consultancy Services, I think most of you know Tata Consultancy Services is one of the world's largest consultancy firm in software. So women constitute 31.7% of overall TCS workforce. And in order to support women in the workforce, Tata Consultancy Service has been undertaking daycare tie-ups to provide good childcare facilities in and around office areas for associates. So they have offices in all cities all over the world. So around their office, they have tied up with the facilities with creche so that mother can leave their children in the creche and come to join the work, and in between she can go there. Okay, next one. So this is TCS. Next one, please. So Biocon. Okay, next one. So Biocon is led and motivated by the enterprising woman business leader, Dr. Kiran Majumdar-Shaw. I think most of you know her name. Biocon is India's largest and Asia's premier biopharmaceutical company. She has been named by Times as one of the 100 most influential person in the world and by Forbes as one of the 100 most powerful women in the world. Next slide. Okay, so this is Dr. Kiran M. Shaw, chairperson of Biocon. Next one. So Biocon strongly believes in extending equal employment opportunities. It has over 1,000 women employees. 30% of scientists in Biocon are women. So they provide maternity benefit as per statutory rules. But there is a difference that Biocon's women employees are allowed the flexibility to further utilize their leaves, whatever leaves they are accumulated PL or EL. And in the absence of leave, they can continue without pay as long as they want, as long as they are comfortable with their child. And once they return, they have the flexibility to work part-time because the child is younger age and they need attention, so they can work part-time, few hours they can work and they can go. So this type of flexibility has been provided. Next one. Creche facility is provided where working mothers can leave their small children. They have in-house gymnasium, and special care is taken to ensure the safety of women employees who need to travel back home late at night. They are escorted and dropped back at their doorstep. So this is the Biocon building in India. Next one. So Infosys, I think most of you know the name of Infosys. It is an Indian IT company with global footprint, one of the largest IT companies in the world. This company formed Infosys Women Inclusive Network, IWIN, for the development, engagement, and growth of women by promoting an inclusive workplace where potential of women is leveraged. Every woman feels valued, heard, and fully involved with the company. Yeah, next one. Yeah. So it provides self-defense training to women in the campus. It also provides special taxis to women to make sure that women reach home safely on days when they end up working late to meet the deadlines. And 34% of the workforce is women. Almost 2 lakh employees are there, 68,000 is women. Promotions and salaries of equally competent men and women are at par with one another. For women at mid or senior management level, an exclusive program called I Will, Infosys Women in Leadership, has been designed in partnership with Indian Institute of Management. Indian Institute of Management, IIM, is the premier management institute. So they provide training in the leadership role for the women so that they can take up top level positions in the Infosys infrastructure, in the organization structure. So the program is aimed at empowering women to take up leadership roles. So this is the Infosys. Next one. Now, Indian government policy is also encouraging women's, so it has announced the gender equity in science and technology. It is one of the goals of the science and technology of policy. So this is a government policy to have the gender equity in science and technology. Next one. So in the Department of Science and Technology, DST, there is a re-entry opportunity for women in research and development sector. Because of the family responsibility, when children are born, they have to take care of the small children for a couple of years, maybe 5 to 10 years. They're not in a position to take a full-time job. So in those cases, the Government of India, Department of Science and Technology has given them the re-entry opportunity that they can come back after 5 years, they can again rejoin the institute. The scheme has successfully provided more than 2,500 women scientists an opportunity to re-enter science and technology fields. So in another scheme on intellectual property rights, women are encouraged to work from their homes. The IPR or intellectual property rights, most of the computer-related work, so they can work from home. And so this is one picture of the yoga session in progress in DST. Next one. And this is a Science Express organized by the Department of Science and Technology. Next one. So as was mentioned, that Indian Space Research Organization is a pioneer research organization in India. I put the Department of Atomic Energy and Indian Space Research Organization. There are two top organizations. So in the Mars mission, the ladies, women scientists, they took a large, major part. So we can see that women scientists at Indian Space Research Organization celebrating success of Mars mission by putting a spacecraft in Mars orbit. And India is the 4th country in the world to reach Mars. Okay. So next one. So this is from Kofi Annan. Gender equality is more than a goal in itself. It is a precondition for meeting the challenge of reducing poverty, promoting sustainable development, and building good governance. Next one. And Dr. Ambedkar, he said, I measure the progress of a community by the degree of progress which women have achieved. Dr. Ambedkar is the person who made this. And so it is important for us to recognize and celebrate our heroes and sheroes. Okay, both men and women we should encourage, and we shall record a substantially new manner of thinking if mankind is to survive. So we have to rethink the way we have been treating women. We have to encourage them, give them more support. Yeah, next one. So they look at things and ask me why, but I dream of things that never were. And I say, why not? Next one. So I dream of a day when there will be gender equity in India and in the whole world, and our country will become world leader in science and technology. So this is a small poem, Magnificent Power of Belief. This is aimed at the women and girl students who are present there. Success begins with a fellow's will. If you think you are beaten, you are. If you think you are outclassed, you are. If you like to win, but think you cannot, it is almost certain you won't. If you think you lose, you are lost. For out in the world, we find success begins with a fellow's will. and it's all in the state of mind. Life's battles do not always go to the stronger and faster man, but sooner or later, the man or the woman who wins is the one who thinks he can. So I'm sure our women in India can become leaders. They can scale much higher heights than what they're doing. So it is the strong willpower that will be made. And in the end, I'll quote a few lines from a poem, Nari by Kazi Nazrul Islam. Shammer gan gai, amar chokkhe purush ramoni, kono bheda bhed nai, বিশ্বে যা কিছু মহান সৃষ্টি চিরকল্যাণকর অর্ধেক তার করিয়াছে নারী অর্ধেক তার নর. With this, I end my presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for your eloquent and mesmerizing presentation. We enjoyed every bit of it. Sir, we do know that you have a presentation just after this, and we are grateful for the fact that you have given us your precious time so benevolently. Thank you, sir. Please accept our regards.
I should thank you and all the organizers and the program managers who have come and organized this program, Association of Chemistry Teachers, then this Rani Rashmoni Green University, Singur College, and I would also like to once again thank Honorable Dr. Shantanu Chakraborty, Professor Shantanu Chakraborty, Professor Ashutosh Ghosh, and all the organizing committee members for organizing this event. Thank you very much. Indeed, I have some other program to attend today because today is a hectic day for me, so I may be excused.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, sir. Please take care of your health.
Thank you.
May I now invite the second speaker of today's event, our beloved and very own Mrs. Jenny Sharut Madam from Royal Australian Chemical Institute, Melbourne, Australia. We have always known Madam to be extremely helpful to our students and dedicated to the service of chemistry education. Madam has always supported the student community with unquestionable commitment and readiness to extend her help. Whenever I have approached her to speak at any webinar, she has readily agreed and have also given her valuable suggestions. Madam has received the prestigious and most coveted Order of Australia Medal for her outstanding contribution in chemistry education. It is indeed a great honor to all of us. Our education system is still alive for teachers like you, Madam. Thank you, Madam, for being with us today in this platform. All of us are extremely eager to listen to you in this august occasion. May I now request Mrs. Jenny Sharut Madam to deliver her presentation. The platform is all yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Meepner, members of the Indian Association of Chemistry Teachers, and all others present at this global breakfast celebrating the United Nations Day for Women and Girls in Science. It is a great honour to have been invited to speak to you today. I send you greetings from the Royal Australian Chemical Institute, which is also participating in the global breakfast across the country. Of course, that was a few hours ago. Women have made amazing contributions to science, and in particular to chemistry, since the beginning of time. As you may know, our Australian Aborigines are the oldest civilization on Earth. Using radioactive isotopes to study their rock art, early tools, and other historic relics, scientists have determined that they have been in Australia for around 60,000 years. What most people do not know is that they had an incredible knowledge of the land, plants and animals, astronomy, and the seasons. There are over 500 language groups across Australia, each with its own unique and intimate knowledge and appreciation of its surroundings. They communicated their knowledge and beliefs between the groups by means such as drawings, symbols, dances, songs, and signs. And they looked after the land and its ecosystems really well, far better than the early English settlers and those who came after them. Under their watch, unlike now, there was no erosion, no major bushfires, and no pollution, and no animal and plant species became endangered. In all of those Aboriginal groups, the women played a pivotal role. They were the early chemists. For example, they discovered a range of medicines and how to extract them from plants, including, we now know, painkillers, anti-cancer treatments, and healing ointments. They discovered how to remove poisons from highly toxic plants and other resources to obtain a very valuable food source. They were the givers of life, the suppliers of most of the food and other resources, and the healers of their society. And accordingly, they were treated with respect by the men within their groups. Tragically, that respect was not given by most of the white settlers, whose appalling treatment of them is a national disgrace. But I will say no more about that here. Long after Aboriginal people settled in Australia, in the rest of the world, no matter which of the known early civilizations you might think of, including in India, Tibet, Egypt, Afghanistan, and China, people mined and processed many of the natural resources to produce things they needed and things they desired: weapons, tools, containers, food preservatives, jewelry, dyes for fabrics, cosmetics, and perfumes. This involved a lot of experimentation. According to the fascinating book Hypatious Heritage, it was mostly the women who were at the forefront of all this experimentation and processing, while the men were more occupied with hunting and building. In addition, it was mainly women who were their physicians and surgeons and who discovered the medicinal properties of various plants, oils, minerals, and metals. So it was the women, first and foremost, who were the world's first chemists. They invented and built equipment, and they discovered how to extract, break down, separate, and purify substances. Women are also said to have played a prime role in the founding of alchemy, the earliest form of chemistry. It is likely that this began when it was observed that fire could transform substances into new substances. But let us overturn some popular misconceptions about alchemy and its practitioners, known as the alchemists. Alchemy was both a science and a philosophy of life. True alchemists did not want to conquer nature or to merely observe it. They wanted to work in partnership with nature to help it improve. Alchemists believed that the perfect material was gold because it shone like the sun, which they viewed as the giver of life. One of their aims, therefore, was to transform other materials into gold, which they thought could be achieved by speeding up the transformation of minerals and metals that occurred naturally but very slowly. Some thought that a magical substance would enable them to do this. It was generally known as the Philosopher's Stone, though in India it was called the Jewel of the Wise. They also believed that they should only perform their experiments with a pure heart. So they must not only transform natural objects to greater perfection, but also their inner selves. So they restricted their work to sacred places, underwent cleansing rituals so they were morally worthy, and recorded their findings in symbols and metaphors so their knowledge did not fall into the wrong hands. Unfortunately, it was the actions of unscrupulous people who posed as alchemists so they could cheat people that led the alchemists to being misjudged and even persecuted. But the truth is, it was the alchemists who discovered much of our valuable chemical and medical knowledge and developed many of our widely used laboratory techniques. One of the greatest times for the alchemists arose when the Greek warrior Alexander the Great, having conquered Egypt in about 332 BCE, established the city of Alexandria. This became a truly multicultural city in which women were equally valued with men and which boasted a great library, an observatory, dissecting rooms, and botanical gardens. Scholars came there from all over the world. With the introduction of Greek philosophy, including the proposal that all matter was made from earth, air, fire, and water, the alchemists of Alexandria were possibly the first scientists to combine theory with experiment. One name that stands out from this time of great enlightenment was that of Maria the Jewess, who in about the 1st century CE invented water baths and sophisticated distillation apparatus, which was very like the apparatus used today. One of her inventions is still in use today, not only in chemistry laboratories, but also in some cafes and restaurants. This is the bain-marie. A French term literally means Maria's bath. Tragically, 2 centuries later, the Roman Emperor Diocletian attacked Alexandria and burnt down the entire library. All the records there, held there, of incredible knowledge of chemistry, medicine, mathematics, astronomy, and so on, that had been built up in those great civilizations were destroyed in one blow. What a tragic loss. Another great blow to women in chemistry in those early years was the assertion of the famous Greek philosopher Aristotle that females are merely deformed males. This was published in his very influential work on embryology, which publication was based on what he observed when he dissected hundreds of animal species. To quote from Hypatious Heritage, this bias against women was incorporated into most systems of natural philosophy and contributed to the widespread belief amongst both men and women that science was the domain of the male. In addition, Aristotle firmly believed that all matter is made up of those 4 elements, earth, air, fire, and water, and vehemently opposed the theory proposed around 500 BCE by the Greek philosopher Leucippus and later by his student Democritus. Sorry, I have trouble with these Greek names, that matter is made of atoms. Unfortunately, when these theories of Aristotle were brought to Europe in about the 12th and 13th centuries, they were embraced by the churches as having an almost divine authority. Those who opposed them were prosecuted. As late as 1624, the Parliament of Paris passed a law compelling all chemists to teach Aristotle's 4-element theory on pain of death or confiscation of goods. This was the dark ages for Western chemistry. Despite all that, at least one French alchemist, Marie Murdrack, dedicated herself to her research work. In 1666, she published her first report on all her discoveries. She described laboratory apparatus she had invented and laboratory techniques she had developed. Her report displayed tables of atomic weights of various substances, the results of her experiments on metals, and instructions on how to prepare a number of medicines and cosmetics. Around that time, the Irish chemist Robert Boyle vainly attempted to isolate Aristotle's four elements, and in his book called The Skeptical Chemist, he questioned the validity of the theory and emphasized the importance of conducting accurate experiments to test hypotheses. Fortunately, thanks to Boyle's influence, there was an increasing question of the assumptions behind the theories of Aristotle and others. It was realized that theories must be backed by experimental evidence. This was the start of the Age of Enlightenment and the adoption of the scientific method. So the late 17th century became a time when chemistry knowledge started to develop very rapidly. New instruments such as the accurate weighing scales and thermometers were invented. Many highly respected scientists, such as Sir Isaac Newton, also practiced alchemy around that time. In 1730, he declared his support for the atomic theory suggested by Leucippus, but proposed atoms are held together by mutual attraction, not by the little hooks that the Greek philosopher had envisaged. After oxygen was discovered in 1774 and hydrogen in 1781, quantitative experiments on the combustion of hydrogen were conducted by both Antoine and Marie Lavoisier, and they led them to conclude the four-element theory could not be correct. They were also able to explain what combustion actually involved. It is important to remember that Marie played an integral part in all of Antoine's research work after marrying him at the age of 14. Antoine was 28 when they married. Fortunately for both Marie and for chemistry, Antoine realized straight away that his bride was highly gifted and, unlike many men of that time, gave her every opportunity to make the most of her gifts. With his encouragement, she quickly proved that she was a very talented scientist, linguist, and artist. She learned English and Latin so that she could translate important documents into French for Antoine, and soon was annotating these with her own comments. She collaborated with him in designing, performing, and recording their experiments. She translated their reports into other languages and drew their technical drawings with great accuracy and skill. Marie also turned their home into a popular scientific meeting place, taking an active part in all the discussions and debates. Their learned guests were very impressed by her. After conducting some brilliantly designed experiments, the Lavoisiers co-wrote the first modern chemistry textbook called Elements of Chemistry, which was published in 1789. In the book, it was proposed that an element is a substance that cannot be decomposed by any method. The 23 elements known at that time were listed in the book. Little were they to know that the discovery in Italy in 1781 that a dead frog's leg could be made to kick would bring a whole new set of discoveries. The discovery of current electricity and then of batteries led to the discovery of a new way of breaking down substances just 20 years later. This in turn led to the discovery of new elements and the development of the periodic table. Despite Marie Lavoisier's outstanding contribution, most men of science did not appreciate or acknowledge the role of many women scientists, who often worked without support and acknowledgement. Indeed, men often did their utmost to limit what they could achieve, treated them poorly, and even took credit for their work. 3 stories spring to mind. The first story is that of Lisa Meepner, a young Jewish girl who lived in Vienna, Austria, in the late 1800s. Fortunately, her parents valued education very highly. At that time, girls were not allowed to study beyond primary school. So Lisa's parents engaged a private tutor to teach her. Then in 1901, the Austrian government opened universities to women, and Lisa enrolled to study her 2 great passions, physics and mathematics. Soon she had to deal with male prejudices, with some male professors refusing to have a female in their class. Despite that, she persisted and received her doctorate in 1906. However, the only jobs available for female physicists in Austria were teaching or tutoring, so she moved to Berlin, Germany, to further her studies in the new exciting field of radioactivity. There, she was forced to work in an old carpentry workshop in the basement because the male laboratory supervisor would not allow a female to work in the official laboratory alongside male researchers. Then, just before World War II broke out, she had to leave Germany secretly and in haste because she was Jewish. Lisa found refuge in Sweden, where she continued her work on nuclear radiation. As part of her research, she pioneered the use of the Geiger counter. Lisa also furthered the work of another scientist, Enrico Fermi, some of whose experiments were then repeated at her request by a former German colleague of hers, Otto Hahn. Neither Enrico nor Otto could explain the results they obtained. It was Lisa who was able to analyse and explain results, and in doing so, she discovered the process of nuclear fission. She even calculated the energy released in the process. But over that war period, she was not permitted to put her name on any of the papers she wrote, and the 1946 Nobel Prize in Physics was given to Otto Hahn instead. Eventually, Lisa's work was recognised. However, she won a number of awards and became Professor of Physics at the University of Berlin. And you can bet anything she didn't send the female students down to the basement. In 1992, the newly discovered element 109 was named Meepnerium, symbol MT, in her honour, recognising her as one of the most important scientists of the 20th century. The second story is of Cecilia Payne, a British-born American astronomer and astrophysicist who proposed in her 1925 doctoral thesis that stars are composed primarily of hydrogen and helium. She also discovered what the sun is made of. Henry Norris Russell, a fellow astronomer, is usually given credit for discovering that the sun's composition is different from that of the Earth's, but he came to his conclusions 4 years later after Cecilia, after telling her not to publish. After dealing with prejudices and barriers, I'm happy to say Cecilia Payne was the first woman to be promoted to full professor from within Harvard, and is often credited with breaking the glass ceiling for women in the Harvard Science Department and in astronomy, and inspiring a whole generation of women to take up science. The last story is that of Rosalind Franklin, a dedicated X-ray crystallographer. In 1953, you may have heard this story, two scientists called James Watson and Francis Crick burst into a pub in Cambridge, England, and announced they had worked out the structure of DNA. Today, many people think they were the ones who made this discovery, especially as they are awarded a Nobel Prize for it, but they were not. Before Watson and Crick excitedly burst into that pub, a number of biochemists had already deduced that hereditary material consisted of nucleic acids and that there were two possible base pairs making them up. Moreover, the chemist Linus Pauling had discovered from experiments, including using X-ray crystallography, that many protein molecules have a spiral shape. By this time, Rosalind Franklin, a brilliant X-ray crystallographer, had pioneered the technique of using X-rays to determine the position of atoms in complex organic molecules. In 1952, Rosalind managed to obtain clear X-rays to determine, sorry about this, the structure of DNA. And that was an incredible achievement because it was very hard to isolate it in a form suitable for X-rays. When she analysed her results, she realised that DNA is in the shape of a double helix, and its two strands consist of alternating sugar and phosphate groups. However, while Rosalind was refining her results for publication, without her permission, one of her male colleagues secretly passed her key findings and some of her X-rays onto Watson and Crick, who used them and other evidence from scientists across the world to build their model of DNA. They had not performed any experiments themselves. Tragically, by the time they were awarded the Nobel Prize in 1962, Rosalind had died from cancer at the age of 37. It is likely that this was due to her exposure to radiation. Sadly, unlike Lisa Meepner and Cecilia Payne, Rosalind Franklin was never given credit for the pivotal role she played. I hope these stories have shown you how important it is that the United Nations celebrates the role of women and girls in science, and that the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, as well as your Indian Association of Chemistry Teachers, are marking that occasion by this international breakfast. Today, there are many women researchers who have made important discoveries in many branches of pure and applied chemistry. There are many women who are dedicated chemistry educators, and there are many girls who study science and dream of becoming scientists one day. They all deserve our encouragement, support, and respect. As the previous speaker said, to limit them in some way is to limit all that science can achieve. I have been asked, and I hope there's enough time to talk about some of my own experiences as a science student and educator over many years. Have we got time? Are you happy with that?
Yes.
Can I talk
Yes,
for another few minutes?
Yes, ma'am, definitely.
Yes. First of all, why did I choose to be a teacher? For this, I thanked two very significant teachers I had during my schooling. The first was my grade 3 teacher, Miss King. In the 1950s, teachers tended to be very harsh, and most parents viewed their role as trainers and disciplinarians, but Miss King made learning a magical, wonderful experience. She treated us with kindness, respect, and humour. She not only challenged us and enabled us to do our very best, but also encouraged us to be curious and imaginative. And so right at that young age, I not only developed a lifelong passion for learning, but also dreamed of being a teacher like her, who would love my students and open up the world to them. The second was my Year 11 French teacher, Tony Galmany. This was 1961, and our high school had very few resources at that time. Despite that, Tony was an inspirational teacher in every way. He treated us with dignity and respect and inspired us to strive for excellence, all with a delightful, gentle sense of humour. He once gave us a beautifully catered for French morning tea at his own expense, something teachers never ever did, and carried out many acts of kindness in his own time. For example, he drove students to visit a fellow student who was in hospital some distance away. He was a wonderful role model. Inspired by those two great teachers, I chose to stick to my dream to be a teacher, even though at the end of Year 12, I achieved the marks to get into medicine. Why? Besides loving working with young people, in my view, teaching is the most important and worthy profession of all. Teachers are the ones in close day-to-day contact with our next generation, our future leaders, doctors, scientists, inventors, engineers, judges, builders, manufacturers, thinkers, and writers. Teachers are the ones who plant the seeds they need to grow. We nurture them and foster a love of learning and a belief in their own abilities and sense of worth. Why did I choose chemistry? To answer that, I first need to tell you why I chose to study a science. I still vividly remember the standout moment that decided the direction I would take in my academic studies. This was the moment my Year 10 history teacher asked me which course of study I would take in Year 11. At that time, for Year 11 and 12, we could only choose between three courses: science, humanities, or commerce. My favourite subjects then were history and maths. Anyhow, I said I was thinking of doing science. "Girls don't do science," he roared. My respect for my hitherto outstanding teacher was shattered in one blow. To his great disappointment, all that he achieved was to make me determined to prove him wrong. And I was the first school in the school to study science. I would add that at that time, students, excuse me, students could leave school once they turned 14. Sadly, a small number of boys and very many girls were forced by their parents to leave the school the day they turned 14, even though some chose that for themselves as well. Many parents believed that girls did not need much education because they would only get married and have children, in inverted commas. So when I started high school in 1957, there were roughly 100 girls and 100 boys starting at that time. It was a new school and there was only 1 year level ahead of us. But by the time I reached Year 12, there were only 10 girls and about 30 boys left. Why chemistry? I loved solving maths problems, so originally thought I would be a maths teacher. In fact, over all my 26 years or so of teaching, I taught maths up to year 12 over most of those years. However, the more I studied chemistry at university, the more I loved its beautiful logic and its mysterious, invisible world of atoms that fire the imagination. That love has only grown since I left university and became a teacher and chemistry author, as I have met so many passionate chemists and learnt about so many fascinating processes and materials. All of these experiences have shown me how much chemistry there is in everything, even in life itself. In my view, if society is to mature, then teachers can play a crucial role in teaching to young people to respect others, to show kindness and compassion, behave with dignity and integrity, and uphold and defend the core values of our societies. And if students are to learn to love chemistry, then chemistry teachers can play a crucial role in inspiring their passion and interest in this most fascinating of subjects. To do so, you need to be passionate about chemistry yourself. Passion and enthusiasm are catching. I dare say, although you would all be far too well-mannered, some of you may have been silently doing your maths to work out how old I must be. I am happy to tell you I'm actually 76 and I'm still as passionate about learning and about chemistry as I was when I first started teaching over 50 years ago in 1967. That is why I'm still very actively involved in chemistry education. I'm also pleased to tell you that I actually visited Miss King just before her 90th birthday and thanked her for being such a great teacher who inspired the whole direction of my life. And ever since I found out how to contact him a few years ago, I have visited Tony Galmany, who turned 90 last year. I have thanked him many times for being such an outstanding role model and for bringing my vision of what a teacher can be and what a teacher can achieve to a much higher plane. I would add, thanks to Tony's passion for his subject, many of my fellow students who I often see still learn French, speak it fluently, and visit France whenever they can. Such was his success. I encourage you too to acknowledge any teachers who inspired you. I might add, however, it's very unfortunate I had their role models before me to keep my eyes on a higher goal, as like countless girls and women before me, the path I chose was not always easy. Having been outnumbered by boys in my science and maths classes at school and frequently teased by some of them, while the other boys stood back in silence, I decided that the best way to deal with that was to work really hard and achieve better marks than them, and to just laugh when they teased me. At Melbourne University, where I went, there were few girls in my honours chemistry course. Unfortunately, some of the boys were very unkind and even bullies. These were boys from all male private schools. I remember my first year partner for practical work scoffing when he saw me and saying loudly to the students around us, "What? Do I have to work with a girl?" So I kept quiet and worked even harder. But it concerned me then, and still does, that many boys and young men have not learnt to respect girls or to recognise and appreciate their abilities, even when the girls score higher marks than them. Indeed, that makes some of them even nastier. And it concerns me greatly that so many other boys and men stand by and say nothing, which implies they approve of this behaviour, instead of telling them that it's unacceptable. It takes great courage to stand up for what is right. The other barrier faced by so many women and girls is social and economic injustice. When I completed the third year of a 4-year honours chemistry course, a highly respected senior female lecturer encouraged me to go further with my studies. Of course, I would have given anything to do so. However, I had won a scholarship known as a studentship to go to university, as my parents could not afford university fees. This studentship also paid a small living allowance to help pay for my travel to university each day and my books and other living expenses. But the catch was we were only permitted to do a first degree and a year of teacher training, and then we had to teach in a government school for at least 3 years. Despite that, the lecturer wrote to the State Education Department begging them to allow me to continue my studies. Unfortunately, its bureaucrats, who all would have been male, refused, despite the fact I achieved very high marks. In fact, I was equal first in the class in second year and second in the class in third year chemistry. They said if I decided to go on, I would have to pay back all my fees and allowances for the 3 years I had completed. Given my parents' situation, I had no choice but to comply. However, they then gave permission to go on to PhD level to one of the males in the class, who was also on a studentship and whose marks were well below mine. The irony is he only ever taught school students for 1 year, eventually. So I had to stop my studies in chemistry, undertake my teacher training, then go out teaching. When I did, my salary was below that of my male counterparts, even those with less qualifications, simply because I was female. I'm sorry to say the situation has not changed greatly in Australia. While almost all students now finish year 12, even today it has been found that on average, women earn around 25% less than males in the same field in Australia. And far fewer women go on to complete higher degrees after achieving success in their first degree. In the case of science, I shudder to think of all the fine minds and talent that has been lost to our society and to science, and the discovery and inventions not made. Well, what do you do when this happens to you? I decided that while I was disappointed and somewhat angry when I was prevented from furthering my studies in chemistry, that I would not let these injustices limit who I was and what I could achieve. Not only did I work at being the best teacher I could be and at writing really worthwhile science and chemistry books and other resources, but I also set about trying to help young women in particular to learn to be effective, just, and compassionate leaders. As part of that, I initiated a number of student leadership events for girls at Melbourne University, which included overnight stays at the university, as well as statewide and even a national conference on social justice issues such as poverty, racism, and refugees for both girls and boys. Teachers have been astonished that a chemistry teacher would concern herself with these issues. But my answer always is, we should all be concerned about them. They are at the heart and the soul of our society. I will leave it at that. I thank you again for the very great honour you've given me and wish you all a wonderful year ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, madam, for enriching us in such a wonderful way. Thank you very much. I extend my gratitude to both the resource persons for their indefatigable spirit of inspiration and sustenance. My wishes of sincerest gratitude go out to Dr. B. Shah sir and Mrs. Jenny Sharut madam for being kind enough to grace this occasion with their magnanimous presence and sharing with us their vast repertoire of knowledge. May I now request Dr. Alokesh Hajari to say a few words. Sir, please.
Thank you, Dr. Mitra. Is it audible? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Good morning to all of you. I am Dr. Alokesh Hajari on behalf of my college, Government General Degree College, Singur, feeling honor to propose the vote of thanks on this event. First of all, I would like to give my hearty vote of thanks to the most distinguished speakers, Professor Bipul Bihari Shah and Professor Jenny Sarut, for making an excellent presentation and nice talk. I would like to express my deep gratitude to all the respected patrons, Professor Shantanu Chakraborty, Principal, Government General Degree College, Singur, Professor Ashutosh Ghosh, Vice Chancellor, Rani Rashmoni Green University, Professor D.V. Prabhu, General Secretary, ACT, and Professor Bijesh Pare, President, ACT. I also want to thank our IQAC coordinator, ma'am, Dr. Choitali Chaudhary, for her guidance and moral support. I especially want to thank all of my departmental colleagues and also other teachers present here, especially Dr. Soikat Bandyopadhyay. And finally, I thank all my beloved students from my college, from the university, and other institutions too. Once again, I thank all of you for your cordial cooperation. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Mitra.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam, for your inspiring words and enthralling presentation. We have learned so many things from you. We do understand that the participants will have a lot of queries because it is basically, a natural desire to want to learn more and more things from speakers like you. Our speakers are so eloquent and mesmerizing that we do not want to let them go. We want to listening to them and learn more and more things from them. However, unfortunately, since we have a limited time period, we may not be able to accommodate questions from too many participants. Thank you, madam, for enriching us in such a wonderful way. I would like to thank Professor Shantanu Chakraborty, sir, Principal, Singur Government College, Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, Professor Ashutosh Ghosh, Professor D.B. Prabhu, Secretary ACT, Professor Bijesh Pare, sir, President ACT. Last but not the least, I also want to thank Dr. Soikat Banerjee, sir, for all his technical supports that he has provided today. I would also like to thank all the faculty members of the Department of Chemistry, Singur Government College, and obviously the IQAC member, the IQAC chairperson of this college for their unquestionable support. I promise to all of you that the Department of Chemistry, Singur Government College, will be back with you with more such events in the coming days. I'm just putting a feedback form link in the chat box. Please fill in this particular form and you will be able to receive the e-certificate. Thank you all. Hope we will be able to meet soon. Thank you for your presence. Thank you, Mrs. Jenny, madam. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ma'am, I shall email all the details with you soon.
Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.
Yes, ma'am. Please take care of your health.
Thank you. Thank you.